Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Around the Emirates podcast, where I speak to guests across the UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today, I am joined by special guest David, who is the founder of Sober Lifestyle Coaching, a company which helps members of society along their journey to recover from addiction. Hi, David.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for welcoming me. It's lovely to be here.
Of course. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me. I think that you are someone who can make a big difference in our society, not just in the UAE, but across the world. I know that you're also based in the UK. So please tell me your story and why you were inspired to start this company.
Oh, bless you. Well, I'll try and keep it brief because my story is 57 years long, which is my age. So let's go back to the beginning. I'm actually Canadian. I was born in Vancouver, but I grew up in the UK. So I came to the UK when I was 5, and I lived in the south of England, an area called Somerset. And the truth was that even from an early age, I think I realized I was different. I didn't fit in. I didn't feel connected to other people. And all my
Mhm.
friends at school, they were all popular and easygoing, and I just wasn't like that. The other interesting fact is that my father was an alcoholic. Now, I don't really remember noticing that. I don't remember him drinking, but I do remember him being angry and violent. And I think I grew up a little bit in fear, or maybe a lot in fear, actually. And I think
Mhm.
that sort of carried around with me. So as I was growing up, I was sort of this timid, shy, confused young man. And that continued until about the age of 11, which is when I found alcohol. Even at the age of 11, I would go to the nearest pub with my friends and we would drink at the weekend. And it's quite
How?
astonishing. Well, the thing is that you can't tell, but I'm 6'6". I'm nearly 2 meters tall.
Oh,
And at
wow.
the age of 11, 12, I think I was 6'2", and I didn't weigh very much, but I went to this pub and we used to drink and I used to get drunk. And I think in my teenage years, I realized that alcohol helped me get over my social anxiety because I think that's what it was. I sort of look back now. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, as a teenager, you don't really know why you feel the way you feel, but
Mhm.
I felt very different. But when I went out, if I had some alcohol, I was funnier. I could talk to women. I thought that I was somebody a bit different. And that's sort of the way it continued, really. And I went to university. I studied nuclear physics. I got a job working as a software engineer. I wrote software for the military. Then I worked in banking and I lived in Switzerland and the USA. And I had lots of different careers. I've had 5 different careers. And the truth was that I guess that you would call me now a functioning alcoholic. So in all
Mm.
those years, I was always a heavy drinker. So even at
Right.
university, alcohol became part of the thing that I relied on. So I was definitely somebody that would say, oh, I work hard and I play hard and I deserve to go out and party and have a good time.
Mm.
But I think I recognized even in my early 20s that I didn't have an off switch. And and I think that that's something that's probably quite common to alcoholics, which is, first of all, we can't stop when we start. So for me, there was never enough. So when all my friends would say, oh, it's 11 o'clock, I'm going home, I would be looking for the guy that was still at the bar that wanted to go on a bit further. And the other thing is that if I did try to stop drinking, I couldn't stay stopped. And that's probably another good indicator of somebody who might have problems with their relationship with alcohol, which is, these fundamental questions that we might want to ask ourselves, which is the basic question I ask is alcohol your friend? A
Right.
really simple thing, which is, again, that people say, well, I deserve a drink and I've had a hard day at work and I like to have alcohol. And and I think, my journey through life was that I always had alcohol around me. I worked really
Right.
hard. I think I worked out very soon in my first career that I couldn't get drunk during the week. And at that stage, I had some control. But certainly on a Friday and a Saturday, the brakes were off and I was
Mm.
away. And that was pretty much the way that things went for me. So I had these different careers. I moved around the world. But I always found my tribe, my gang of people that wanted to go and party a lot. And that was my lot. And that was my life. But the truth was that what underpinned me was still this feeling of being an alien, not really connecting with people. Um, I think I'm a very logical person. I'm a mathematician. I remember as a boy, I used to think in terms of mathematics, and we would do mental arithmetic, and it was really fast. I didn't have to think of the answer. But so logical things, computer programs, working in Excel spreadsheets, all that sort of logic was really easy for me. But human beings, interactions, conversations. So I even find still to this day, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I tend to find I interrupt too much because I don't get those social cues that other
Right.
people have, that they read. I don't think I'm great at reading people, but I sort of learned to cope with that. So if you imagine this journey of still being, I guess, secretly awkward, but going on this journey of relying on alcohol to make me feel better.
Mm.
And I think that lots of people find that. They find
Yeah.
that it becomes their crutch. It's the thing that they rely on. And of course, in those early years, it was harmless. There would be moments, of course, where catastrophic things would happen. And I asked people, my clients, to look out for things called UBIs, which are unexplained beer injuries. So if you go out and you come back covered in bruises, that might be a good indicator that your drinking's gone to a bit of excess. So you have accidents. Now, what's interesting actually is about alcoholism, and we might talk about lots of other addictions maybe, which is that the thing about alcoholism is that I don't want to be depressing, but I just want to talk about the impact on people, which is you might be surprised to find out that the number one cause of death for alcoholics is not liver cirrhosis or pancreatitis or disease. It's actually falling over. More people
Falling over?
die through falling over. More people die who are alcoholics through falling through a glass coffee table, falling down the stairs, falling into the road in front of a moving vehicle. And if you think about it, they're so drunk, they fall over. So the people that eventually die, if they're an alcoholic of liver cirrhosis, they've sort of missed out all of the accidents that tend to kill off everybody else. So yeah, alcoholism
Wow.
is mostly about falling over, if you die. But certainly the statistics for the impact of alcohol, I think the global average, if you read the statistics from the WHO, the World Health Organization, I think it's about 5% of all deaths have significantly been changed with alcohol. They've impacted a number of deaths.
So, okay, so having said that, and that's a crazy figure and crazy fact that you just told me about the falling over thing, that didn't even occur to me. I mean, I
Yep.
can understand it, just didn't occur to me.
Yep.
Having said that, I would imagine that you learned this through your own experiences, if I'm not mistaken, and that's what led you to starting your company. So tell me about the journey of, you don't have to go into too many details if you don't want to, but I'd love to know
Yes.
how you actually were inspired to start the company and like what your mindset
Okay.
was at the time.
Yeah, bless you. Yeah, forgive me. I can waffle on all day and talk about
That's totally
my
fine. That's the
past.
point of a
But,
podcast.
but the point is, well, why am I in Dubai? Okay. Well, the truth of my journey was that addiction is insidious and progressive. It always gets worse. And it gets to the point where we talk about having a rock bottom, which is a moment where you decide you've had enough. Now, unfortunately for me, I started a company that was hugely successful and I made an awful lot of money. And the trouble is that I wasn't the sort of person that made good choices. And if you give me a lot of money, I'm going to make some really bad choices. And, they all came home to roost. I can be honest and tell you that I developed a cocaine habit. I had so much money. I would fly around on private jets and go on holidays. And I had this on the outside, people would look at me and say, gosh, you're so successful. You've got a McLaren and a Ferrari and you drive around, but inside it was absolutely broken. I mean, really, it was a real mask that I was pretending that I was okay. And the other thing is that I want to talk about the consequences of addiction. This is another thing for people to look at if they're concerned about their drinking or drug habits or other behaviors like gambling. What are the consequences to your life and the loved ones around you? So for me, the consequences got too great. And I ended up going into a rehab, but it didn't work because I wouldn't listen, because I wouldn't be told. I'm somebody who won't be told. And I went through 10 years of hell. And I went in and out of
10
rehab. So
years of cocaine addiction?
10 years of cocaine addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling addiction. I lost just an inordinate amount of money. I was divorced twice. I lost my business. And we talk about these things as the yets. If you go into an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and let's imagine that you go along because you've never been before, and you want to find what it's like. And we end up comparing ourselves to other people. So next to me, I've got Brian, and Brian says, "Oh, I've taken heroin, I've been arrested, I've been to prison." And you think in your head, "Gosh, I'm not as bad as him. I haven't been arrested. I haven't been arrested yet. I haven't crashed my car yet. I haven't been divorced yet." And they're called the yets. And we say that if you hang around long enough, you're going to start to tick off the yets. And that's what happened with me until finally I genuinely had enough. And I think that I've done lots of reading and research, and I'm very interested about this, which is what's the moment that somebody gives up? And I think that there's an emotion attached with that, because we might feel lonely or sad or fed up or worried or anxious or all those emotions. But I think the one that makes the difference is disgust. I think the moment that we're disgusted with ourselves is the moment you say, "I'm done." And that's normally because of an event. So eventually I got clean and sober. I went back to rehab, and I had my moment of disgust where I just couldn't believe the way I'd behaved. My marriage was in the toilet. I was living on my own, and I thought I need to do something because I tried to take my own life several times, quite seriously. And there was a moment one night where I was going to try and take my life again. And I thought, what on earth am I doing? And it was almost like there was a religious moment where there was a voice. So I decided that I needed to do anything and everything. And that was a number of years ago. And I put all of my work into recovery. I took some training. I worked in the rehab that got me clean and sober. I volunteered for 2 years, and then I worked there for a year. And then finally, I decided to come to the UAE. I'd been traveling to Dubai for about 20 years. I had some businesses when I was successful. I'd been around Dubai, and my wife and I were talking about, what is it that I'd like to do? And I can only call it a calling. I'd felt that I wanted to come to the UAE. And I often say this to stress. I didn't come to the UAE because somehow they're worse or they've got a bigger problem, or no, it's not that at all. I haven't come to the UAE to make waves. I've come to hold hands. And it's because I think that where there are people, there will be addiction. And I think that I would like to come and try and make a difference. And the reason is that deep down here, it's about self-worth. Some people gave me a lot of time and help and helped me get well. And there's almost a duty, but a joy in helping the next person. We call it paying it forward. I want to try and help the next person, because if I don't do that, who's going to be there for them? And, the other thing is that it does give me self-worth to see people get well.
Of course.
And that's the sort of world, Sarah, that I would like to live in. I really would like to live in a world where people are kind and helpful and supportive. And look, I can't look on the outside and say, I wish that world existed if I don't do it myself. And that's why I started Sober Lifestyle Coaching. So I work with clients who have typically alcoholism, drug addiction, or gambling addiction. But of course, there's an awful lot more. And probably in the last 20 years, a lot more addiction. Things like day trading, cosmetic surgery, social media, the internet, gaming.
I see. So it's a variety of addictions that you handle, not necessarily just like one or two types. That's interesting to hear.
Typically, yes.
What would you say? I mean, of course, this is not your conventional kind of business, right? This isn't, a real estate company or, an architecture kind of company.
Yes.
I feel like you are starting something that not a lot of people have heard of, especially in this region. Did you not worry, or were you not concerned about the risks of coming to Dubai with a company like this?
Yeah, very interesting. Well, of course, I'm a gambling addict, so taking risk is all right. But no, I'm not. I'm not an active gambling addict.
Oh,
But
David.
I think I'm a calculated risk taker. But the truth is, I remember years ago, I was offered a job to go to New York, and there was a moment I thought, shall I go or shall I not go? And there was something inside me that said, listen, if you go and it's rubbish, you can come home. And it's as simple as that. I don't think I fear these things. And I've traveled and moved and lived in different countries a few times now, but I think I felt I wanted to go. But I think, the biggest challenge I had, and that's sort of what you're signposting here, and it's a great question, because the truth is, for all things, you don't know what you don't know. Okay, so you turn up, and I'm quite willing to go on the journey of discovery, because the truth is that I've learned it's not the destination anymore, it's the journey. It's who you meet, what you talk about, the things you learn, the mistakes you make, and the joy that you have in coming across people. Absolutely, I believe fundamentally I've got this notion of a higher power. So the 12 steps of AA talk about God, but it's really a relationship with a higher power. And my version of a higher power puts things in my way for a reason. And I honestly believe that my higher power puts Sara in my way for a reason. And that's the positivity that I like to believe in. So coming to the UAE to learn the way things work, what's different, what do I need to do? And in all honesty, I've absolutely found my niche. And only literally in the last 2, 3 weeks, I think I've figured out why I'm in the UAE, actually.
Wow. I'm in awe of everything you're saying, David. And if anything, I'm so happy to invite you to do a second part of this episode. I feel like there's so much more that we need to talk about, and I'm
Bless
going
you.
to end the episode here. And for all the viewers that are watching and listening to this episode, tune in next week for part 2, and you'll hear much more about David's amazing story.